Top five.
Still topical, back with another video. I'm Strange Wing. He's Nate. Today we're doing top 5 Martin Scorsese movies, continuing the top 5 director series that we're doing.
It's true.
So we have a Zemeckis rule, another director. What is that rule, Nate?
Basically, if we have the same movie on our list, but one person has it 2 spots or higher, that person will call Zemeckis, and it just means we're going to save the conversation about that film until we get to the person who has a higher on their list.
I doubt we're going to have one of those, but we might. So my number 5 is going to be Raging Bull.
Okay.
I'm going to say this about just about every film on my list. The reason why I love Martin Scorsese, the reason why he's one of my favorite directors is he makes very unlikable characters likable. He brings the humanness to them. He brings the sensitivity. Like, you know why they're the way they are. He gives you that, you know. They're not always bad. They got good inside. And for the character Jake LaMotta, real-life boxer, he was a product of his surroundings. Very angry, like how his father was, how the whole neighborhood was, basically, you know. And when he got money and the fame, the ego, that's when his life went to shit. And it's a beautiful portrait of self-destruction. And I use portrait because this movie is beautiful. Scorsese puts out all the camera tricks. The fighting scenes are extremely beautiful. But it's a sad movie. What can you do? My number 4 is going to be Taxi Driver. He's not bad, but you don't like him. He's kind of like that kid you sat in class in middle school who had greasy hair and always wore a trench coat. You don't know why you don't like him, but you don't like him. So, same thing with him. He comes back from the war. He comes back from hell, basically, and he goes to New York City, which is probably a terrible decision, because it's New York City in the 70s. He doesn't know why he fought for this stuff, because he came back to the slums and it looks like shit, and he's just confused. He's trying to like put himself back in society, but throughout the film you sympathize with him, but he keeps doing dumb shit and you're just like, don't do that. Like, Travis, what are you doing? And then it just goes 180. He tries to shoot candidates, political candidates, and then he starts shooting pimps. Harvey Keitel, a pimp with a long fingernail. It's a coat nail, but it's painted red. Very dope. But that's my number 4, Taxi Driver.
Nice. So my number 5 is going to be Shutter Island. I love a good mystery, and I love a good twist. Scorsese doesn't often put a lot of twists in his films, at least not to this extent. So I like the way that he did it. I appreciate the tone of the film. DiCaprio does absolutely amazing. And the first time, it's just one of those, I put it in, that the Fight Club realm, it's just so different the second time you watch it. The second time you know what happens, you're paying attention, you're picking up on all these little clues, all the other stuff that didn't make perfect sense and kind of made you question the reality, you pick up on this time and move on from there. Number 4 for me is going to be Goodfellas.
Zemeckis.
Okay.
A offensive Zemeckis, too. My number 3 is going to be The Wolf of Wall Street.
That's my number 3.
Word. Again, we probably shouldn't like
Jordan Belfort.
Yeah, Jordan Belfort. Thank you. We probably shouldn't like him in this movie.
Yeah.
But we see where he came from, He's just this humble little kid who just wants to do good, provide for his wife, have a family. And then he meets Matthew McConaughey. And Matthew McConaughey is telling him all this stuff. It's about money. You got to jerk off this many times a day. And then that slow disintegration into money and ego. And it destroys his life. But unlike the other films on this list and Raging Bull that I mentioned prior, this is the most entertaining version of that.
Yeah.
He's doing Quaaludes. He can't get out of his car. He's throwing money. He's throwing... Can I say that?
Little people.
He's throwing them in the darts and stuff. And it's amazing. Him and Jonah Hill playing off of each other.
That's perfection.
And Scorsese is kind of like Goodfellas, the way he films it. The narration and stuff. And it works perfectly for this film. So... one of the best films of the 2010s, definitely.
Yeah.
You can look on our best of the decade ranking list. In the corner, it will be somewhere near the top.
Yeah. I agree with you on most of all those points except your first one. I don't ever have any sympathy for this character. He's responsible for his own decisions, which is how I feel about the majority of Martin Scorsese's characters.
Yeah, and you're a cold-hearted bastard.
I hold people accountable for their actions, and he didn't come from absolute shit. He was fine, and it wasn't good enough for him. So people need to learn how to be happy with what they have, and they need to learn that money is not going to make them happy. Makes life a little easier, but it's still really entertaining. Watching his descent into absolute madness is fascinating. Watching him, get his comeuppance at the end is great for me as well. I think Kyle Chandler is a very underrated actor, so I really love his role as the detective that ends up putting him away in the film. Margot Robbie's a babe.
You're a fucking pig.
Great film.
Yeah, they're selling pins, taping money to tits. Was not a love.
John Barenthal shows up in this movie.
He shows up in a lot of movies.
Yeah, he does.
He does not show up in my number 2, which is Casino. You got Pesci, you got De Niro again, and this film's just great.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything I want to say about this film, I could apply to Goodfellas too, but I'm trying to hold back. But you have this friendship, and it turns bitter again because money, power, ego, and they both want different things. Joe Pesci, he just wants to run Las Vegas and make it his own because the mob bosses aren't in Las Vegas. They're back in New York, and they're sending the money back there. And De Niro, he just wants this casino to be the greatest casino of all time. He's so driven. His passion for it is amazing. And another reason why I love Scorsese movies, because a lot of rappers love Scorsese movies. I got my drawers on. Sam Rothstein, 44 in the way, Sam Rothstein. Because Sam Rothstein, he doesn't wear drawers when he's at his desk working. Genius stuff. Genius filmmaking. Genius lyrics. And it's not on your list, and I'm disappointed. But what's your number 3? I know your number 3. What's your number 2?
My number 3 is Gangs of New York.
A whole lot of gang shit.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously Scorsese deals with mobs and gangs a lot. This time he took it back to the OG street gangs of New York. I love that time period. I think it's fascinating. Daniel Day-Lewis freaking kills it as Bill the Butcher in this film. What I really, really enjoy about it is you really get 2 movies. So it hits its first climax, which is extraordinarily tense. And it hits it pretty late into the film. So the first time I watched it, I wasn't paying attention to the runtime or anything like that. And I was like, wow, it's finally about to end. And then it didn't. And there was still like an hour left of movie. And I loved every second of it. You get a good kind of in-depth feel into most of the characters in this. Cameron Diaz's character, a little overacted personally, but it's still... I think that I love this one and appreciate it from Scorsese so much is because it is still what he does with all the more modern like gang films, but he just put it in a different time period and it still works.
Wow. Okay, that's actually a good point.
If you look at the top 100 greatest movies of all time, he's on there a number of times.
I believe it.
And my number 1 that will definitely be on that list is Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas. You see Henry Hill, he's not a bad kid, you know? Every time he does something bad, he does something despicable right afterwards. And then he does something good again to keep you sympathizing. And then he grows up to be an adult. And then that's when it kind of all goes to shit. He's making real money. The ego's there. He walks into a place through the back door. He's greeting everybody. And they're like, oh, you need a seat? Bring up a table. We got 40 people waiting outside. But bring up a table for this guy. The power. It's like he says in the film.
One day, some of the kids from the neighborhood carried my mother's groceries all the way home. You know why? It was out of respect.
That's some gangsta ass shit.
That's a fact.
The film's incredible. De Niro, incredible in it. There's not one bad actor role in this. And it's very, like... I feel like this is what happened, like, if you really got busted, you know? You're going to rat. And it shows that, and it shows life afterwards and how he desperately wanted the life back. But he's stuck eating macaroni and ketchup and people calling it spaghetti, which is disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Yeah. As a fellow Italian. Ugh. Well, it's not on your list, but I know you're number 1.
It is on my list.
Oh.
It was my number 4. He's a Mexisted.
Yeah, that's disrespectful. You want to talk about it?
Yeah. Again, I don't feel any sympathy for any of these characters. People are responsible for the decisions that they make, and doing a few little good things every time you do a really, really shitty thing does not make up for it. Good people do bad things and bad people do good things. And this movie is full of bad people who occasionally do a good thing.
It's full of good fellas.
Stupid.
No.
It's in the title.
That being said, it is very entertaining, extraordinarily well acted and well directed. I refuse to sympathize with the characters, and that doesn't make it a bad movie. It's really fun to watch.
I know your number one.
My number one's The Departed.
Irishman. What?
Yeah, Irishman's garbage.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
The Departed is great because you have actual good guys and bad guys, and it's easy to pull for the good guys, and really exciting to see what the heck is going to happen to the bad ones. But I love crime thrillers a lot, especially this type where it's a little more... it's about kind of like the street level blue blood cops, you know, not a whole lot. You know, they have this sting planned and like, you know, there's just moving parts everywhere. Like we have our guy inside the police department. We have our guy inside the gangs and they're kind of like each other, but it's just, there's just a lot of moving parts. And the first time you watch it, tracking all of it, it just gets you really, really invested into the film. It got the award it deserves for a reason. Excellent. Oh, so you're saying Martin Scorsese didn't deserve that?
Not that one.
That's bullshit. That's ridiculous.
Not to see what came out that year, but he should have won one before. I feel like everyone agrees.
So that doesn't mean he shouldn't have won it for The Departed?
I mean, I don't know what came out 2006. Off the top of my dome.
The film's phenomenal. It deserved Best Picture. Mark Wahlberg, freaking great in it. My favorite movie that Mark Wahlberg's in, because it's just like, he's still him, but since he's not like the main character, he just fits great as this side character in the universe, and then obviously gets the final act.
You can appreciate him because there's such a thing as too much Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
yeah,
same thing with Alec Baldwin.
Yeah,
you put him in little parts like Wes Anderson does, or like in this movie.
Yeah,
and it's just like, what's your name? Fuck you, that's my name.
Yeah,
they're perfect.
Yeah. And plus, you get the symbolism with the rats and all that kind of stuff, and how they kind of sneak their way in through things. And
you want to do your Jack Nicholson rat impression?
No.
What a shame. Somebody doesn't like YouTube views. But if you like YouTube views and Martin Scorsese movies, tell us down in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe.